Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Matt Cabrey, and I'm native to Greater Philadelphia, and I've worked in the marketing, communications, business development space for most of my career. And today I lead a couple different organizations, primarily an organization called the Ideas Times Innovation Network, which is an initiative of our Chester County Economic Development Council that helps entrepreneurs and startups across all of southeastern Pennsylvania to take their idea from concept to commercialization.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get into all that?
Wow, it goes way back. Mm-hmm. Should I start at kindergarten? No, I'm kidding. So when I graduated from Penn State, my focus was communications.
Okay.
And I essentially established a career in a variety of organizations where I used my communication skills. Primarily earned media, so media relations, sponsorship management, employee engagement. And it's a toolkit that I was able to develop pretty effectively. And I used that in a variety of industries. And what I learned is it's the same tools, just applied differently based on the industry sector. So from a nonprofit to a health insurance company, to a bank, to a pharmaceutical company. And then I got to a point in my career where I really wanted to lead organizations as opposed to just doing the communications for an organization. Yeah. So back in 2014, I became the executive director of a nonprofit that was focused on business attraction. And that has led to the role that I have today with the Ideas Times Innovation Network.
Nice.
Yeah.
So going into a little more depth about you, what are one of your most memorable experiences or moments in your own career?
Wow. I'm going to go way back to my first job, actually.
Really?
So when I graduated from Penn State, I was sending out resumes, and I was following up with phone calls, and I realized that I couldn't get a job just by sitting at my kitchen table.
Right.
So I decided to go and ask for a job, and I drew a 100-mile radius around Greater Philadelphia, and I went to every radio and television station in the region and told them who I was and what I was trying to do. That was my plan.
Right.
I went to the third organization in Avalon, New Jersey, and I walked in, told them who I was, what I was trying to do, and was offered a job on the spot. And I started 3 days later as the overnight announcer on Shore 94, 94.3 FM, which at the time was easy listening music. But it was a great experience, and I basically worked Sunday through Thursday or Sunday through Friday morning from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. as the overnight announcer. But my point in sharing that story is what I appreciated at the time was if you really want something, if you're really focused on a vision that you want to accomplish, you have to go out and make it happen. You can't just sit at your kitchen table or in your basement or wherever you're comfortable and expect the phone to ring. You need to actually go out and get it.
Right.
So for me, that was really memorable.
Yeah. And what's something that you feel in your career has had the most impact on where you are now?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. The most impact, I've had lots of different learning experiences. Some really challenging, and some you kind of take for granted and you don't recognize how significant they are until you reflect on them, maybe a couple months later or a couple years later.
Right.
But there was one significant one where I worked at a pharmaceutical company, and I was engaging with a reporter at the Wall Street Journal who was sharing with me some very specific information about one of our medicines and adverse events associated with one of our medicines. And this was all news to me. And in sharing this story in a more concise way, what we discovered was that there was a regulatory agency who was essentially withdrawing the marketing authorization for one of our medicines. And this was a big deal. And at the time, I didn't necessarily appreciate how big of a deal it was. As the day went on and we were there until about midnight on that first day, I really began to appreciate that this is a milestone moment, not only in my career, but in the life cycle of the company, in the life cycle of this particular medicine that is still in the market today that helps people live better lives. And it was an exercise in crisis management, dealing with internal audiences, external audiences, including not just the media, but shareholders and other community members, parents of children who were prescribed this medicine, and helping them understand the facts associated with this. So it is a milestone moment, and I can tell you dates like it all happened on February 5th of 2005, and the medicine came back on the market August 20th of 2005, and there was a whole process in between all of that. But it was a great learning experience, and I reflect on this often, especially around crisis moments.
Right. So if you could think of one piece of advice you would give to your younger self, what would it be? And to the audience as well.
Advice to my younger self.
And that's led towards your success.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mentioned before this notion and this importance of you got to go for it. You got to go out and make things happen. You got to go ask for what you are working towards and not expect it to come to you. And one of the things that I wished I had done as a younger person, if I was giving advice to my younger self, is to take more risks, to try new things. And I'm reflecting on this specifically around my comfort in being born and raised in the greater Philadelphia region and my desire to stay here. And I wished I had the courage and the confidence as a 20, 21, or 22-year-old to move to another part of the world and try a new initiative and appreciate then what I appreciate now, which is what's the worst that can happen. It could work out great, or it could not work out the way I expected, and I just move home. That's not to say that I haven't explored. I was really thrilled to complete an education abroad program when I was at Penn State, and I lived in Manchester, England for 6 months.
How was that?
It was awesome. It really was. And that's one of the things I encourage folks to do. If folks have a chance to live internationally, especially if they're going through an education program, whether it's high school or college or beyond, to do it. Because you're never going to really get that chance to do that. And I translate that to my post-college career, where I wish I had the courage and confidence to move to Tupelo, Mississippi, and work at a radio or television station, or work at a newspaper, or in some sort of telecommunications world, or journalism world, to get my start. But I really wanted to start my operation in Greater Philadelphia.
Nice. And what is a fun fact about yourself, or something that you necessarily a lot of people don't know about you?
Yeah, this is a fun one. When I attended Penn State University, there was a company called Truly Yours. Truly Yours was a card shop, and it was housed in a very small storefront on Beaver Avenue in State College. And you go in and buy greeting cards. But they also supplemented their greeting card business with singing telegrams. And they had a variety of singing telegrams who were costumed characters who would go to mostly classrooms to wish students happy birthdays, but you could also go to a child's birthday party, you could go to an anniversary gathering, you could go to a retirement gathering, and there's several different costumed characters, and we refer to it affectionately as the Balloon Baboon.
The Balloon Baboon.
And that was one of my part-time jobs up at Penn State, was being the Balloon Baboon. It was really fun, and it was easy to squeeze in assignments in between classes. And it was just one of those enjoyable, memorable moments, and one of my great, fun part-time jobs.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for telling us about yourself.
Sure.
And Braedon will be in to talk to you.
All right, so now we're going to get into a little bit about I2N and the current initiatives going on. So we would love to hear, we will talk about a little bit later about future initiatives. But,
sure.
As you've been on the last couple months, how has the setup been, and what's going on right now?
It's been really great being part of the Ideas Times Innovation Network, Braedon. We call it I2N for short, but I will tell you, I'm very focused on sharing the full name. And I know it sounds very nuanced, but when I first joined the organization in August of 2023, a lot of folks just said I2N. And a lot of folks don't know what I2N stands for.
Yeah.
So I'm very deliberate about sharing that specific reference to the Ideas Times Innovation Network.
Yeah.
And it's been great because, one, I like to help people.
Yeah.
Two, this is an area of startups and entrepreneurs that are eager to learn. They want to embark on this journey. They have similar attributes of mine of being curious, but also being open to advice and guidance. And in many cases, they're seeking that advice and guidance. So it's been really rewarding from that perspective. In addition, having the opportunity to come in and think through a different lens and bring a new structure, bring a new energy to the Ideas Times Innovation Network is something that I really enjoy, and it's part of who I am.
Yeah, I think, and we were just talking about this a little bit. Taking something from lots of talking about ideas in innovation. I think a lot of people can have ideas,
right?
And then how do you get to the innovation piece? So I really think that's where you guys come in, and I'd love to hear more about that. Starting with that idea. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a startup. Maybe I have a small operation going. What are the kinds of things that you offer now to take those startups or early stage businesses from ideas to innovation?
Yeah, totally. So I'll share with you some of those features, but I do want to just comment for a moment on, because I don't want it to be lost, and I really appreciate this. And you're absolutely correct, Braedon, that it's one thing to have an idea. It's a whole nother thing to actually implement that idea, or take that idea from concept to implementation. It's a real challenge, and it takes courage. So at the Ideas Times Innovation Network, one, we have the benefit of being an initiative of the Chester County Economic Development Council. So as part of the Chester County Economic Development Council, we have access to an entire framework of support and structure that allows us to be successful. And we borrow some of the primary vision and mission of the Chester County Economic Development Council and incorporate it into our work at the Ideas Times Innovation Network, I2N. So the four primary pillars, and I'll go through them quickly and then we can come back and talk about each one if you like. The first is the basics of connecting and networking. And a lot of organizations provide that kind of support. We like to think we do it a little bit differently because we take it to the next level. And the second pillar is advice, coaching, and mentoring. And there's a distinction between the three of those, but that's a real value add to the services we offer, especially for entrepreneurs who are navigating this. The third pillar is called workspace solutions. And frankly, this is where I2N got its origins. Workspace solutions is all about helping an entrepreneur who you may appreciate typically starts in an environment that's non-traditional. They're in their basement, they're in their garage, they're off their kitchen table. And when they're ready to move into a more sophisticated space, we come in and help with workspace solutions at no cost, and we talk about the different options that are available to them. And I mentioned a moment ago that the I2N origin story really starts with the workspace solutions because we're formed as a way to administer the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania tax credit program known as the Keystone Innovation Zones program, where startup companies who meet certain criteria could be eligible for up to a tax credit of $100,000. So that's the third pillar. And the fourth pillar is access to funding solutions and funding options. Everything from a grant program to introductions to angel investors, venture capitalists, private equity relationships, to traditional loans for small business owners. So those four buckets are really the key. Connections and networking, the component of advice, coaching, and mentoring, workspace solutions, and access to financial options.
Well, that's great, and it's an amazing summary
Yeah.
there. I think you might have knocked that out in one minute or so, which is incredible.
Good.
And I definitely want to remark on, and one of the reasons that we love IT Edge, love partnering with the Economic Development Council, and particularly your initiative, is that we see the value in all four of those pillars.
Yeah.
So being able to say, okay, this is something that IT Edge has used, to get this office space. We benefited from some of your programs.
Awesome.
To network, now in the last 2 years, getting together with all of the different facets of the Economic Development Council, the mentoring and the one-on-ones, and these are all things that I've been able to see firsthand, and even before me with the acquisition of this building for IT Edge's workspace. It's definitely something that we've seen firsthand, and I want to vouch for. Let me throw that out in the ring. Is we've seen it, and we've seen it happen, and we've seen it work, and we feel that we're an example of that. So if we can help other companies be aware and provide the opportunity, that's what we want to do.
I appreciate that, Braedon, and I'll volley it right back to you and say we're a secret. So we want to get our message out there even more. It's amazing to me, one, how few people actually understand and appreciate the Chester County Economic Development Council and its role as an economic development entrepreneur, not just in Chester County, but across all of southeastern Pennsylvania. And even more so, the Ideas Times Innovation Network, which really didn't come into fruition until about 2012, 2013 timeframe. So it's still very young, but any chance we get to share our message through programs like this is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that lends to, especially with the acquisition of the workspace and all, maybe for a business that's been around for a little while and has a little traction. What would you say if you're a business or an entrepreneur and it's just you're doing your thing, you're working really hard? What are some of the resources for that solo entrepreneur? Not that they can't use all the other ones, but if there's anything particularly tailored to that solo entrepreneur, the very small business, to get started and situated in the county.
Yeah, well, one of my first pieces of advice for an individual who's just getting started, maybe they just have an idea and they haven't really taken it to the next level, is to, I know it's going to sound obvious, but it's to share the idea with others. Because you'll be surprised at how other people can help you. And unless you share that idea, you'll never know that. You'll never get into that conversation. And it's a risk because you're pulling back this curtain, you're being vulnerable, and you're sharing something with others that could be received really positively, or it could be received with cynicism, for example, and you have to be prepared for that.
And you put yourself into your business.
That's right.
Typically, usually if it's a good business, I'd say that you're passionate about it. Put yourself in. It definitely is a vulnerability piece. But I've been surprised with how many people are willing to help.
Totally.
It is very positive reception most of the time.
That's right. And you won't know that unless you have the confidence and comfort to put that idea out there and say, I've been thinking about this. What do you think about that? And then the tentacles that spiral from that is pretty impressive. And it could lead to a whole new set of conversations that you would have missed if you didn't have the courage and the confidence to share it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that this conversation here will help the small business owner, the entrepreneur listening to understand the value that you offer between those four tenets and all of the resources of the Economic Development Council.
There is one thing I want to share that really captures the spirit of how we operate. And I'll do it very concisely, Braedon, in that we have I2N partners and we have I2N entrepreneurs. And our role is to connect those two audiences with each other, because that's where the help comes into play. The I2N partners are typically professional services firms, maybe large corporations whose employees are volunteering to be part of the initiative, and they can bring insights and connections and value to those kinds of conversations. They're also serial entrepreneurs who have been really successful and they want to give back and they want to help out. And then we have the I2N entrepreneurs who are really just getting started and they're figuring out, how do I take this to the next level? And that's where we come in to connect them.
Great. Well, I'm sure that we'll have some of those listening and we'll be able to find the perfect fit with the organization. So.
Absolutely. The whole concept that we're building at the Ideas Times Innovation Network, one, has me really excited. because we're building a community. We've had the framework in place, we've had the foundation in place, and what we're doing now is elevating that to the next level. And it's not rocket science, but it's little things like dedicated programming, scheduling more focused services for our I2N entrepreneurs and our I2N partners for that matter. And I'll give you a couple examples. We are launching a series called Funding 101 that's intended to help startup companies and entrepreneurs think through what are the various funding sources out there. We hear about angel investing, we hear about venture capitalists, we hear about private equity, we hear about friends and family. We don't even know about grant programs that are available to us as entrepreneurs. I'm thinking through the lens of an entrepreneur here, right? We also may not be familiar with the loan structure, traditional loans that are available either through an SBA program or a traditional loan program. So this Funding 101 program is intended to kind of break through the complexities of how do I get access to capital to start and grow my entrepreneurial endeavor. So that series is coming up, and we're really excited about providing that for entrepreneurs. Similarly, we're launching a new initiative called Tax Credit 101. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania offers a variety of very robust tax credit programs that are beneficial to businesses of all sizes. And they may be specific for an industry, they may be specific for a type of company. So we again are breaking through the complexities of those challenges of understanding, do I qualify for a tax credit? And if I do, how do I go about applying for it? So again, that's a new series we're launching in 2024 that has us really excited. So that's really what has us energized. And I will say, coming back to my earlier reference, what excites us is this notion of building a community. So we want to expand our reach across all of southeastern Pennsylvania, not just Chester County, not just Delaware County, which historically that's where the Ideas Times Innovation Network started through administering the Keystone Innovation Zone tax credits. We've built on other features and attributes that are beneficial to entrepreneurs and startup companies. And now we want to help entrepreneurs regardless of their geography in southeastern Pennsylvania. We want to partner with other like-minded organizations to provide these kinds of services to entrepreneurs, whether they're in Chester County or Philadelphia County, Bucks County, Montgomery County, Berks, Lancaster. We're all part of the same neighborhood here.
Right, that's awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to leave everybody else with?
Yeah, I guess what I would really want folks to know and appreciate, especially those who are in that startup mode, in that entrepreneurial mindset. They have an idea. They've been thinking about it, maybe for a month, maybe for a year, maybe for 3 years. And they've not necessarily had the courage to take that idea to the next level. I want them to know that they're not alone, that there's a network of folks out there who not only can help, but who want to help, who want to give back. They're successful entrepreneurs, they're successful business leaders who are now in a place where they want to engage with others to help them be successful. They get personal and professional satisfaction out of doing that. And we serve as the conduit at the Ideas Times Innovation Network to bring those audiences together. So in short, you're not alone, and have the courage to take that step. What's the worst that can happen?